Learning how to use a new power tool can be pretty intimidating because that drill will be like, and sometimes you're not even really sure which one you should tackle next. This is the, what is it called? I don't know what you call this. Spot cleaner. So I'm gonna walk you through the power tools that I use the most in my furniture flipping business. It's actually so dorky how I'm getting excited right now, and what I use them for. The very first tool that you're gonna need, and if you only have to pick one, is gonna be the Orbital sander. But it is very important to note that this is a random orbital sander. I did not know this, that it makes a huge difference. A regular orbital sander will not remove as much material as a random orbital sander. I have the Hart cordless one. I used a regular corded one for a long time and it worked great. It was the Bosch orbital sander. It is a phenomenal sander as well. However, I found that using it on a daily basis, I was replacing the pad about once a month. And I've had this Hart random orbital sander for about a year and the pad is still extremely sticky. One thing to note about the cordless orbital sander is you will need backup batteries and they aren't necessarily cheap. So I love this. I always keep 2 batteries charged backup in case it dies during a project. So if you're willing to do the investment, love this orbital sander. However, a corded random orbital sander will work great as well. I use this to sand any large flat surfaces, which is the majority of my projects. I'm working on dressers, nightstands, cabinets. That's what sells best for me. I'm picking up this sander most of the time. Something that I wish I had invested in sooner was a shop vac, or I guess wet dry vac would be the official name. Shop vac is a brand. I really like that the Hart one comes straight out of the box and fits right into the orbital sander. Again, you can use different brands. You're just gonna have to try and find the attachment that fits with whatever random orbital sander you have. This has eliminated so much dust in the garage. Feels just so much safer and more secure having the dust extraction. I will say it is important that you have the proper HEPA certified filter in it. See, I need to change this one out. But anyways, this filter is gonna collect all the tiny little microscopic dust particles that will be flying around in the air. Highly, highly recommend getting this right off the bat. Again, you can just use the little baggie that the sander comes with, but that's not a great long-term solution. One other perk of the cordless sander is that you don't have to worry about having your cord getting all tangled up with the hose. While we're on the topic of sanders, the random orbital sander is a must-have. A detail sander is a great thing to have, but not absolutely necessary if you're just a beginner. This is great for getting in any right corners and tight spaces. I think you can get away with hand sanding in the random orbital sander. Another option for sanding in those tight spaces would be the multi-tool. So this, you're kind of gonna get a lot of bang for your buck because you can put that little detail sanding attachment on the multi-tool and you can use it for a lot of other things as well. Detail sander and the random orbital sander, great things to have. The multi-tool, I actually use this thing way more frequently than I ever thought I would. So I use the cutting blade a lot. I use this for cutting bases and modernizing them. I use this for cutting nails that I can't get out that are stuck in wood. I use it for sanding in tight corners. This thing, I find myself picking it up more often than I ever thought I would. So yeah, if you want kind of an all-purpose tool that can sand and cut wood, this is a great thing to have, especially because it's not intimidating as a first wood cutting tool. Next tool is small but mighty and probably my most used tool ever. It's a screwdriver. Obviously, you probably already have screwdrivers or even a drill, but I just love this little guy because it's so much faster than a screwdriver and it gets in all those tiny little spaces for taking off hardware. I take off a lot of hardware. I install a lot of hardware. The drill is just a little bit too bulky and powerful and like it doesn't get into those tight spaces like this does. I use this little power screwdriver literally every project. It comes with the flathead and the Phillips straight out of the box. Love this guy. Also, a tool that you already probably have and could get away without, but it's definitely great to have, is the drill. The power drill, I mean, it's self-explanatory. You can screw things together, you can remove hardware. I use it to build bases, screwing the bases together. You probably already have a power drill, and that's great. Along with the power drill, I do actually love having my driver. Having 2 in 1 is really great if you like building bases or know how to build a base. That's a whole nother topic. But anyways, I will use the drill to drill my pilot holes, and then I will use the driver to drive the screw in. And that way I don't have to keep switching back and forth between bits, and it just makes the process a lot faster. You could also just have 2 drills, but I love having the drill and the driver. Let me see what tool is next. Okay, the next big tool topic, I guess you could call it a power tool, is a paint sprayer. I wish that I bought a paint sprayer way earlier than I did. I was very intimidated, and there is literally no reason to be intimidated because these things are stupid easy to use. I say that. This thing is stupid easy to use. The HomeRite was the first paint sprayer that I bought. Yes, I bought it. I think it was like $110, and it goes on sale a lot now. But basically, just put the paint in here. There's 3 different tips. I pretty much always keep the green tip in here. There's no need to really swap them out personally. And then there is 1 material setting. This is the material flow and how much is gonna come out of this paint sprayer. This thing will spray thick chalk paint. It will spray thin polyurethane. It literally does the job, and it does the job great. This is like a must-have in my opinion. If you're a beginner, you can use a paintbrush and a roller. I love using a paintbrush and a roller. There's no shade, but this is gonna get your projects done like 12 times faster, and it's not that scary, I promise. I did upgrade to the Wagner Flexio, and this thing is awesome too because it gives a little bit more of a finer finish than the HomeRite does, but it's a little bit more tricky to use in my opinion. I always keep this fine finish nozzle on it. This one has the material flow like the HomeRite, however, it also has an air power, so I normally leave it at like a 3 for a paint and top coat. And then I just lower the material all the way down and slowly increase it until I get the spray pattern that I was looking for. This is awesome. It's a little bit more expensive, not 100% necessary, but I think it gives a really great finish if you're just looking to level up. Those are all my like very basic beginner furniture flipping tools. Now, once you start getting a little bit more advanced and want to start exploring with like building bases and building shelves and stuff like that, adding new trim, there's going to be a couple tools that aren't totally necessary but great to have in your arsenal, and they have pushed me out of my comfort zone. I've had to learn them over the past year, and if I can do it, I promise it that you can do it too. And one of those tools is, let's talk about the brad nailer. The brad nailer. This is one of my more recent tools that I've gotten, and it is so stupid easy to use, you guys. You can use the brad nailer to install trim, to install new backer board. This will help you easily put things together with wood glue without having to screw it. Now, I will say that the brad nailer, it's strong for like detail work and trim, but I would not like construct a furniture base with the brad nailer. It's more for details, like trim work. That's pretty much what I use it mostly for, is trim work, which is great if you ever want to install cane, anything like that. I freaking love the brad nailer, and it's so fun to use because it's like pew, 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 pew. Okay, if you're gonna get one saw, you have to only get one saw to invest in. You're scared of it, you need to learn to use a saw. It's gonna be the circular saw. Yeah, it's freaking terrifying to use at first, I promise. This is gonna be the saw you need to get because you can rip large pieces of wood if you're trying to make shelves. You can cut small pieces of wood if you want to build bases. You can cut basically any straight line with the circular saw. The only thing is you gotta use a lot of clamps. If you're trying to build a furniture base, you can do it with this. You just got to clamp everything down and set. It's kind of an annoying setup. But I would get the circular saw first because it can do the most, in my opinion. You can cut shelves, you can cut new backer board, you can cut it, you just got to use a lot of clamps. Now, if you want to cut straight lines for bases, but you don't want to use a lot of clamps and you want to save time, you want to cut trim, you're going to get the miter saw. Let me show you the miter saw. It's actually so dorky how I'm getting excited right now. The miter saw. I think I actually got a miter saw before the circular saw, but the miter saw was one of my first gifts after I started furniture flipping because, you know, the DIY wife took the internet by storm with her little custom bases, and I wanted to do it. And I'm so glad that I learned the miter saw because it's not scary. It's really easy. It makes straight cuts. You can make 45-degree angle cuts for trim work. Like that's what I did with that cane webbing I did. I installed the trim along it with 45-degree angles. You can cut nice, clean, straight lines really fast. You're not having to sit and clamp each piece of wood. Great investment, bit of an expensive investment, but I love it. All right, what's next? The jigsaw. Okay. I love the jigsaw, but personally, it's not a tool that I pick up all that often. This is really great for cutting wood, kind of like the circular saw, except this is gonna allow you to cut along curved lines or cut a shape out. So like when I did my arched cabinet, I had to cut the arch out and I just basically traced the line and followed it with the jigsaw. So this is great if you're trying to do any sort of like cool intricate designs or yeah, cutting curved things out. Okay, this is another one of the little 4-volt tools that I didn't know I needed, but I loved it once I had it, is the little 4-volt scrubber. So these attachments, these cleaning attachments, you can actually also use with a drill. So yeah, they just stick on here. But the thing is with the drill, it's variable speed. So you have to keep your finger pressed down on that trigger and it's very aggressive and heavy. So if you're cleaning a lot of furniture or you're stripping a piece of furniture and you want to scrub it, this little 4-volt tool is going to save your hand from hurting, your finger from hurting, and it's a lot easier to hold in place because that drill will be like, this is awesome little cleaning tool. Okay, now this next tool I use more so for upholstery, and this is the Heart, what is it called? I don't know what you call this. Spot cleaner. This is the Heart spot cleaner, and I really like using this on upholstery. So if you have like dining chairs with upholstered seats, or I really like to flip chairs, like upholstered chairs or even couches. I've used this thing on an entire couch and it's just really convenient because it sprays out the water, the cleaning solution, and it sucks it up as you spray it. So you're not completely saturating the fabric because it's sucking it up as it cleans it. This thing works phenomenal, and I love reselling upholstered furniture because it's really easy. All you have to do is clean it and sell it. Another awesome tool to have is the Rotary Tool. This thing is great for getting in any really, really tight little nooks and crannies that need to be sanded, as well as also you can use it to polish hardware. I personally haven't tried that yet, but I think it would work really great with just like some barkeeper's friend and the little polishing pad. You can actually do a lot of other things with this tool as well that I haven't tried out, but you can do like engraving and all sorts of little intricate hobbies, but I like my big hobbies. Here's another fun little tool that's not essential but has come so handy for me. I like to use this little power cutter. It's dead right now, but I use this for cutting out like anything that's kind of thin, like rattan. It can cut through some thin backer boards. It cuts through cardboard really well. So a lot of times I will cut out cardboard to use for testing out my spray pattern with my sprayer. So yeah, that's a handy little crafting tool. If you're somebody who's into upholstery or like leather work, you can cut leather with this. You can cut fabric. This is just a really handy tool to have. Next, I recently got a tool that I haven't tried out yet, but I'm really excited to learn how to use it. Now I just have to find the right piece of furniture to use this on, but this is a hand/trim router. So this can cut any of those cool detailed routered edges on furniture, like if you need to do a new furniture top, or I've also seen people cut inset wood lines in drawer faces to make it look like faux drawers. I think that is a really cool use for this tool. I haven't figured out how to use it yet, and I'm a little bit intimidated, but it's kind of like with every tool, I was intimidated with the miter saw. I'll figure it out. Okay, those are all the primary power tools that I use all the time. There are a couple other sanders that I'd like to talk about. One is the SurfPrep. So the SurfPrep Sander is freaking awesome. It is a huge investment, so if you're a beginner, I probably wouldn't bite the bullet and buy the SurfPrep because it's so expensive, and I find myself reaching for the random Orbital sander more frequently. However, the SurfPrep is so freaking awesome for sanding curved surfaces and scuff sanding in between coats of paint. It's a phenomenal sander for doing fine finish work. I really like the 3/4 sheet because it gets into all the corners really nicely. And again, I just love that you can scuff sand a bunch of different curved surfaces really fast with those foam abrasives. But again, if you don't want to invest that money right away in the SurfPrep sander, you can still buy the SurfPrep foam pads and use them on your other sanders. So this is the SurfPrep foam pad that contours the shapes really great. It's called the Pro Foam. But they also make it in the random Orbital. So I can stick this right on my Heart random Orbital sander, or I can stick it on my detail sander, and it'll do a great job as well. If you're like really serious doing furniture all the time, SurfPrep is a absolutely great investment. I use it non-stop, I would say, on every project. Yeah, on pretty much every project. I switch between my random Orbital sander and my SurfPrep. Detailed areas in between coats of paint, SurfPrep, and then the Orbital sander for any big, large, flat surfaces that really need to be sanded down a lot. And the last sander I just want to touch on, because I see some people using it over the random Orbital sander, is the 1/4 sheet sander. And this is an awesome sander for finish work. So I would probably only use this sander like in between coats of paint because it's not as abrasive as the random Orbital sander. So you can really smooth out that finish with being able to be careful not to break through it. So I personally probably would never take a random Orbital sander to a piece of furniture in between coats of paint that you're working on because it just removes material so much and so fast. So the 1/4 sheet would be a better option in between coats of paint. But it's just one of those things that's not totally necessary. I most of the time just sand with 400 grit in between coats of paint by hand. It's not hard, it's just a light scuff sand to smooth it out. So I usually do it by hand. You could also use a 1/4 sheet sander. But if you had to choose one sander out of all of them, get the random Orbital sander. Yeah, no, I'm gonna stand by that. Get the random Orbital sander, you need it. You can't get by without it. And then if you need to get like one tool after that, I want to say the detail sander, but I'm going to stick with the multi-tool just because you're getting that bang for your buck. You know, you can detail sand with it and you can cut stuff because you never know when you're going to need to cut something. Those are my tools. Let me know if there's any tool that you want me to go more in depth on, or if you want a tutorial on, or if I completely missed something. I think that's all the tools I use. Thanks for watching. Yeah.